Today's guest was on TV every night and a Lion for life. Joining me now, it's Mike Elm. He was at KX Sports for forever. I saw you all the time, man, and we're still going to see you plenty around town. Let's start at the beginning naturally. How did you end up being the sports guy at KX?
Well, this would have happened 30 years ago. I was working at a radio station in Iowa at the time, at Marshalltown, Iowa. And after, doing a couple of radio jobs, I thought I want something a little bit more, permanent, more stable. And so then I had contacted the station up in my KXMC and Rod Romine and Jim Olson, who I had worked with in Devil's Lake in radio, and just asked, if anything comes up, let me know. And they asked me to submit a tape, like an audition tape, which I had never done one for TV because I had gone right out of broadcast school into radio. So I grabbed one from my old school days and sent it up, and as not so great as it was, they still hired me and said, come on up to Minot. And again, that was back in 1989. And so that's how I got into television and, did it for 30 years. So I couldn't believe I got in, and when I did, I really enjoyed it. Had a lot of fun.
Mike Elm says the power of networking along with the humility of his talent in 1989. Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it did help knowing Jim, and Rod. I knew KX, and of course that was my hometown where I was from, so it was easy to come back to Minot. I just, something I gravitated to. I'm glad I did it. It worked out well. For those 30 years that I was there and enjoyed it, met so many people, so many memories. I don't know if you'll get to any of that down the road, but, there's just so many things and so many good friends, and so many good people have come along the way, and many of those being the coaches, the friendships developed with them, and athletic directors, and, all those people that are in positions, of somewhat authority, making decisions. And, of course, the kids, the athletes themselves, is always fun because you're always going to get, fun athletes to talk to. But the friendships with the coaches were ones I treasure the most, and will really cherish those, I guess, and for many years to come.
I was kind of curious about your previous radio station stops as well. You got into it for like a minute there. But any kind of memories there that kind of stick out above all the rest I remember like throwing part-time stuff together with radio even today before I got to Minot. So, from your stops there, did anything else kind of like stick in your mind from the 80s?
Yeah, the 80s. We're going back there. There were a lot of things. Out of broadcast school, which I went to Brown Institute in Minneapolis, I ended up in KDLR radio in Devil's Lake and did, of course, some, disc jockey country music kind of things, and that was George Jones and fun stuff like that. And then I got a little bit into play-by-play. They needed someone to help out a little bit, so I did some of that, kind of after I got off my air shift type thing, and did that for a little bit. Then after about a year, a new FM station opened up across town, jumped over to that one. Same thing, did a radio shift, and, kind of did that for about a couple of years, and I thought, well, I want to move up a little more in the field, and a job opened up down in Iowa. They needed an operations manager to start up a new FM country station. It was a 100,000-watt station, and would have been probably, it was in Marshalltown, which is about 60 miles northeast of Des Moines, and we were, I think, if not one of the first 100,000-watt FM stations at that time, to go up. And I was in total, they made me operations manager, so we started the whole thing from the ground up and got that running and made that just a phenomenal FM station, obviously still going today. And part of that, it was some of the people that I got to go meet in radio. One of the trips they sent me to was to Nashville for a radio seminar, country radio seminar, and I was just, I couldn't believe it. You walk into the Opryland Hotel or any other hotels or motels down there, but that was the big one, obviously, and you'd walk right by the country star, the songs that you were playing on the radio, that country star would walk right by you. So, everywhere. So it's so amazing to see that. Got to meet many great people there. I think one that not many people think about anymore, Marie Osmond. She at that time was in country radio, and she has a TV show now. She kind of does, but got to meet her and just all those type of people. And they did like let's call it their liners. So you would take a tape recorder with. And they'd say, I listen to KXIA radio in Marshalltown, Iowa. So he'd go from booth to booth doing that, and there'd be about 30 or 50 of them in a room, and you got to meet your favorite country star while you were, doing your work. It was very, very memorable, I tell you. And then I got to meet Crook and Chase. They hosted a TV show years ago, and they had a big banquet that night. Alabama played for us at one of the luncheons, and so did Eddie Rabbit. And so got to, just meet all those country stars. That was just meant a lot to me, because I was just getting my feet wet in the country. Wasn't a big country guy, but the music was very good at that time, and I just really liked it. So again, that was the thrill, was that going to Nashville and things like that, and then we brought some concerts into Marshalltown. We brought in, for our radio station, so got to meet those people and interview people probably once a week, a new country star, and we did a lot of unique things, because we would play, like back then they had albums. They have, of course, the CDs now, or MP3s, but the album, and they send you an album, and there might be a single out there that was a hit, but we'd go in, they call them like the deep cuts, they call them now, but I'd go through every album we got, and I'd listen to it every night and pick out, 2 or 3 songs besides their hit, and I'd play them. So we really tried to make it unique, our station at that time, and give country music just as much coverage as we could, and we just really, it's just a very memorable time in Iowa at that time. And then of course that kind of, I wanted to get to something more stable, because you jump around a little bit. So then that TV job came up in Minot back in 1989.
Talking about networking, so to this day, do you have sort of an in at the Flamingo in Las Vegas through Marie Osmond at all?
No, I don't. I haven't talked to Marie since that day.
No. Oh, you weren't just another to her, I hope. Yeah. No,
it's just kind of strange. I don't, obviously don't keep in touch with any of them. They're on their own careers and past some of them, but it's nice to follow them on where they were and what they went on to be, a lot of them, and just kind of I got a lot of photos too with them and stuff and pictures. So it's like Randy Travis. People, I remember him from years ago, and people like that. And I'd say, I met Randy Travis. Like, oh, sure you did. And so I'd have to, you break it out, and they're like, oh, hey, I guess you did. So it's not to say anything, kind of brag or anything like that, but just sometimes that would come up in conversation. I said, I had a chance to actually introduce Barbara Mandrell at the Iowa State Fair in Des Moines. I got to meet her. She is, a country star from years ago. And then George Strait, I didn't meet him, but got to be there when he was on stage too. So that was kind of fun down in Des Moines. So
they probably say the same things about meeting Mike Elm. They're like, I don't want to bother him as he moves on to KXMC, and he's a big star just like us,
Yeah.
What about your favorite Alabama song?
Oh boy, that's a tough one. Obviously, My Home's in Alabama is an awesome one. There was a newer song. I can't remember it right off the top of my head here. It's really a good song. It was released as a single. Wasn't a big hit. I'd have to kind of memorize. I have to think it through what the name of it was. But yeah, stuff like that. I guess the 40-hour week for a living was a pretty big hit for them. Of course, they had tons of them. Tennessee River. Yeah, you go down the line of them. I mean, they're all good. And in fact, they were supposed to come to the Huss Fest. Was it last year or 2 years ago? And they had to cancel for some reason. I can't remember what the reason was, but that would have been my. Yeah, I really wanted to see them really bad, because I just, I'd been 30-some years since I'd seen them, and so it was kind of a disappointment, but that's, how things went. But so they don't try to get a hold of me, and I haven't really tried to get a hold of them much either, so
I like the ones
how it is.
They bring a little bit of tempo to, like, Song of the South, mountain music, I'm in a Hurry. I mean, that kind of makes sense. You know, like
Oh, yeah.
if you're going to play in Texas, it becomes basic because they always play when the bye's in advance to Frisco. But my dad is a big Old Flame fan, and he'll ride or die with Old Flame for sure. So as you
Old Flame was an interesting song. It's just basic country. There's not a lot to it. It's just kind of a very two-step kind of dance song. You just kind of you go with it, but it's very traditional. So I can see where people that of another generation probably like that little more, I guess, traditional type country. That was really it there.
As you move from some bright lights to other bright lights between country music to Western North Dakota sports, what do you think is unique about covering sports in this region?
What I think is unique is our coverage, and then yours too, of local athletes and local teams. You go to, there's not too many markets where teams get this kind of coverage, whether it be interviews or highlights. Even when you get to the eastern side of the state, they do a good job, like everybody does. But we just seem to be able to cover our area. I know because they on the east side of the state they kind of have to worry about Minnesota. They kind of have to touch that side of their demographics too, or their viewing audience. So they're kind of have to cover kind of a bigger area, so it's kind of tougher for them. But out here in Western North Dakota, and our coverage is just everywhere. I know people come to mine before, and they'll say, well, "Boy, our teams don't even get on TV once a year, yet alone they're on like every week or every other week, or they're very impressed of how much coverage they get in our area." And that's whether it's radio or TV. I think it's great, and it's very unique for North Dakota. I mean, I think that's something all of us broadcasters can hang our hat on a little bit. That we've tried to do that and put them in the forefront. The local teams.
When you come back to KX, was it easy to hit the ground running with your familiarity compared to someone like me that would have moved for it?
Well, now that you're bringing that up, when I came back actually in news. So I did a few months of news. I was actually the Minot Air Force Base reporter for a while. I don't remember what the title was there. And then our weather person at that time had a baby, so they called upon me to do weather. So I was doing weather for about, 3 months, and did that. And then in that meantime, the sports guy, announced that he was leaving, and that's when I got, asked to do sports, and which I was all for. I was kind of going to be doing that like on the weekends or helping out, so that was kind of like a part-time job, but part of the job, but not the full job. So I was kind of hoping to get into sports, but coming back in the familiarity, I just knew so many people. It had been probably 7-8 years since I left, so people changed a little bit over that time. But the schools, locations, towns, names, all that. Just it's nice to have that. To know that kind of in your back pocket, that how to, who's where, and how to pronounce names or towns or things like that. It takes that burden off you, so now you can just concentrate on going out and doing a story and covering things. And so that was the familiarity, and just of course learning. I knew where the locations of the schools were and everything, so everything was just simple. Just learn who the new coach was and who the new players were, and trying to get familiar with them.
Yeah, because speaking of pulling off and figuring out how to do things, I'm kind of curious. I have you saved in my phone as a mobile number, sarcastically. How were you able to pull off this job without having a cell phone?
Oh, boy, that's a question I got all the way through. I don't know how I have. Well, even my wife sometimes asks me that. You need to get a cell phone. I said, well, here's the deal. I'm at home, which I have that landline thing, which still works, and when I go to work, we have our station telephone, so either location, you can get a hold of me. So, but when I'm out and about, it definitely would. It's almost impossible now for anyone to come up to think that you couldn't have one to survive. But the only thing where it really helps, our phones have become like the mini computers, the Wi-Fi and all that, and getting information. That's what makes them the most valuable now, is getting that quick information, that type of thing. So, yeah, I just had to kind of do more searching and stuff to get scores over the last couple of years. But, I found them. I find things, but it's just made it more difficult than just having a text or whatever the latest thing is. I don't know. But I just thought, I'm in it, and I've got this far. I could just see getting inundated with calls and texts and things, and having to sort through them. And you know how it is. Your time can be limited, although it helps you in time because you get scores and stuff quicker. But at the same time, it takes your time away from what you're doing. And so I kind of looked at it as kind of a 50-50. I'll gain with quicker information, but I'll lose with what I'm doing productivity. So I'm like, I just kind of said, I'll bite the bullet, and I'm just going to keep going. And I was probably getting real close to getting one. It would have probably almost had to become a necessity real quick here, but yeah, I made it through. So I probably not too many people are going to try to do this again. I'll say that.
This would be like breaking news. I mean, what kind of cell phone were you considering getting?
Well, the iPhone 11. No, I don't know. We have flip phones, and we have all those. Whatever. I need just basic. If I got one, it's just to talk. A text maybe, but I don't get into data and all that stuff. And it's too small for my thumbs and fingers to be punching up searching things. So it would be more of just telephone calls and a couple things. So it would be a very simple phone. I don't know. They make the smartphones. Maybe they can make the simple phone for me or something like that. That would work.
Yeah, I just went from the S4 to the Galaxy 10 Plus Note. So I'm still figuring it out too. I think when I'm done, I might just throw my phone in the lake. So, that'd be nice.
Which, by the way, last year we were out in Montana, and we looked at the bottom of the lake. Sure enough, right by the dock, there's a shiny little thing at the bottom, and they said, "Yep, somebody." And we did some rafting. We were out there not long ago, and the guy said the same thing. If you look down there, you'll probably see keys or phones and that are falling out of people's pockets. The shiny things, those are probably what you're going to see down there. So it's kind of funny.
That's where you find the fish, though, too. They like the shiny stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
we did see a couple of those. Yeah.
All right, so this might bring more people into the equation that may or may not have had cell phones. Which coworkers were you really close with over the years?
Which coworkers?
Yes.
Boy, that's gonna kind of put me on the spot here. No, I think probably because we worked together almost every day. Probably Galen S., our photographer, was probably one of the closest. Day in and day out, because we would just go out every day to a story, and it would just be automatic. And so, or if he was doing a news story, I would just have to go by myself, which is fine. But he would always try to team up with me, and we'd try to go out. So Galen was really close, and of course, Jim Olson was our former news director and reporter. He's the one that kind of helped get me hired, and so him and I have been close for many, many years. And then in the control room, Mike Heilman, who runs all the boards and the switches and puts you on the camera and stuff and all that. I've known him since the very beginning, so I was really close to him too. So, I mean, those three are kind of the three that every day, day in and day out, over the years, I had some interaction with and felt, really close to that type of thing and really good friendships. So, obviously many other people, I can't leave somebody out once you start saying things, but
sure.
Those three really were the ones that I would say, were the most, helped me and I helped them, and we became more of a team the most, that type of thing.
How much of MLB Network's Lauren Shahadi's success is owed to Mike Elm?
Well, that's a question you're going to have to ask her. No,
I'm not going to be able to get in touch with her.
I actually stayed in touch with Lauren a little bit. I'm glad. I'm sure she's glad they're playing baseball again. But no, Lauren is a very unique individual, and they'll come along very often like her, a very much a go-getter, and obviously very intelligent. And there's anything she needs to know about sports, she knew it. So when you combine that with your enthusiasm and your your drive and your, going, really wanting to do something. I mean, she went out, went after it, and eventually is, I guess you could say, rewarded, and moved up and went on to, to where she's Major League Baseball now, and out of, I think, New York or New Jersey, somewhere over there. She lives and travels back and forth. But what a great person, and a very deep person as far as, she really has a big heart for what she does, and really, it's not just her trying to move up to the success ladder. It's her remembering all the people and being very close to them, and oh yeah, I don't know if she'd say much for me. I just gave her a couple tips, but she did a lot of that on her own. She's a very good person. Yeah.
So, back here under the bright lights of Minot, did you like hanging out and shooting the breeze with your fellow media members at games and events? Not much of a trap question there, right?
Yeah. Well, we did. You and I and whatever, we'd go to games and Minot State press conferences and things like that, and just, talk about this or that, and, that conversation as you're trying to shoot video of a game. So it's, I mean, we did, that was all enjoyable, all so much fun, and kind of brought the, everything back down to a level of, let's not get so competitive or so, make this so cutthroat type of thing. Let's make this more, just who we are, and try to do the best we can, and still be it kind of gets, friendships going, and just, that's what I like, just being able to just talk and on a more, I guess, conversational level, not have to be so professional type thing. And that was nice, with you or with, someone from the Minot Daily News or whoever may have been there, even the radio people. It's just you bump and say hi, and just, whatever comes up you talk about. And
there we go. Real big anti-professional. I like it. I agree. So
on the sidelines.
Yes. Who are the best? And on the other side, I'll just call it the toughest interviews that you had. Oh
boy, I'd have to really think about that. Well, the toughest interviews, and I'm not gonna pick out a person, but just kind of a sport. I know it's very tough sometimes to interview gymnasts because I don't know why they're very quiet, and it's hard to get them to speak a lot. I don't want to say they're all that way, but just every time I had interviewed them, it was hard to get a lot out of them. And so that would be, every time I went to do interviews at the gymnastics center, I'd be like, well, I'm hoping, the coach can talk a little bit, which he always did. But I'm wondering if the gymnast can say a little bit, and it'd be kind of tough to put a little bit together, because I want to get them on camera, but it just, sometimes I know they're very shy, and so it's kind of hard to get them to speak. Best interview.
I don't know about your knowledge of it, but I mean, it'd be hard for me too. It's kind of like all the running sports. I mean, like, if I was going to go talk to a gymnast, I would be like, how do you plan on flipping better this week? And that's pretty much the most that I can ask.
Yeah.
The good ones, the really good ones.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I don't know. I don't know what to say to that. I'm just trying to think of my best interviews. The best interviews kind of happen when you don't expect it. Like, I don't know how to say that in the right way, but like you're interviewing someone, and there was, of course, over the years, there's been a few of them that, they'll ask you a question, you're like, I'm not sure how he's going to handle this, or she, and all of a sudden they'll go into a very nice, description and answer to your question, and I'm like, wow. And then they'll do it like in media for us, especially in television. You have your 20-second or whatever sound bite, and they'll go right to the 20 seconds and stop, and you're like, wow, you know how to do this. So that's kind of fun, when things like that happen. I can't think of a best per se. I mean, there were a lot of them, that type of thing, but I can't think of an individual. I'd have to think a little bit on that.
I appreciate you being so diplomatic. I know you have your connections. I'll just say Julie Stewart for you, maybe. I don't know. Let's move on to...
Julie was a good interview.
Yeah, exactly. What were some of the biggest moments that you've covered? I know you did play-by-play in the Minot area for like the Weather Channel for a little bit. And just in your role as sports director, what would you call like the maybe top 3 things that have happened under your watch?
Under play-by-play, I mean, they probably. I'm trying to think of. I just did football and basketball. I did do baseball out in Williston for I think a Babe Ruth tournament about 5-6 years ago. That was fun. Now that I'm thinking, I got some great stories here. Well, let's just go with. I'm trying to think how I want to rate these. If I want to rate them as the most unique, but I'm going to go with, I suppose doing basketball a couple of years ago, the Minor High Century game up at the Magic City campus, that was unreal. That went to overtime, I believe. Anyway, that rivalry had developed so much, but the gym was packed, great ambiance there, and that was probably but there were a lot of games like that. I know our Redeemers, Berthold had some great ones. We did a couple of those. Maybe Bishop Ryan and our Redeemers, our Berthold and Delax. There was a few that we did that were really tight. And so those kind of all are in the same category of very exciting. But the Mile High Century matchup was always a fun one. And then I guess it should be the number one, but I'm going to make it two because of the story behind number one, which is really fun. But number two that I would say, which really should be number one, is when my state football team went out to Linfield, Oregon back in 1992 and actually qualified for the Final Four in the NAIA football playoffs. And we went out there to cover it, our station, and I'm trying to search the records. I believe it was the first television broadcast of a North Dakota team outside of the state, a live coverage outside the state, because we had to get satellite trucks and all that back then. We didn't have Wi-Fi and all this cell phones and all that to do that. So, and Jim Olson went with me. We went out to McMinnville, Oregon, Linfield College, and my state played. In fact, Josh Duhamel was on that team.
Oh yeah,
I believe he was a junior or sophomore. Todd Lindstrom would have been the starting quarterback. And I'd say that just a phenomenal team. Dave Hendrickson was a coach back then. And so that was fun just to get out there. And, we're driving out to Oregon to do a game. Actually, we flew, I believe. And I'm like, this is really cool. And then to send it. And we had hired the college kids to do the game. I'll tell you one other football story. This is coming up here left and right here. But the college kids running, and they set up their cameras behind posts. So when you got down about the 20 or 30-yard line, or 30-20-yard line, somewhere in there, you couldn't see anything because the camera was behind the post. They didn't think of putting it on the other side of it. So anyway, that was interesting when that happened. But my state did lose that game, but they made it to the Final Four, and I think that's the furthest my state football team has ever gotten. And anyway, it was fun to be a part of that. But another football story was down in one time I was asked to go with our Bismarck crew down to Oklahoma for NFL. I mean, a college football game, an NAIA game, and it was icy and snowy and really poor weather conditions. And we got the game going, and I think somewhere around the first quarter, I could hear the person directing the thing telling one of the camera people to go to a shot or go to something, and he got kind of mad, and the director kept saying things over and over. And we got into the quarter break, and all the camera people had left and gone home because it was too cold. They were college students, and so they all went home. And we had so that was kind of interesting, scrambling to find anybody to run a camera in ice and rain and snow.
Probably that and the way the director was talking.
Yeah, it was a mess, but I mean, he still pulled it off pretty good. And then that was the University of Mary playing down in Oklahoma. I can't remember. They were the Red Raiders. I can't think of the school name though. But anyway, and then the number one thing though, the most interesting thing I've ever had. This is almost has to be, I don't know, a screenplay for this one. Dennis Allen was fighting at the Four Bears Casino down in Newtown, and we were covering it on TV. And I didn't know much about boxing. I didn't pretend to know a lot. I just, kind of, they asked me to do it, and I said, oh, sure, I'll just do what I can. Got a couple of great commentator. I got a great commentator, and Virgil Hill was one of the also commentators, and so along with me. So all three of us are sitting there, and Dennis Allen from Minot was a, up-and-coming boxer under Virgil Hill and doing very well. I think he was undefeated. And he's kind of not doing too well. He's actually getting beat. I think it's a 6-rounder, 8-rounder, and we're like in the 3rd or 4th round, and he is not. You can tell he's behind. And so I'm talking, and I look to my side to talk to Virgil Hill, and I say, Virgil, how that round? How do you feel that round went? And I looked, and his headphones are laying there, and I'm like, where did he go? And so I went and talked with my other commentator. We kind of filled a little bit, and I looked up in the corner. Virgil Hill was up in the corner trying to help Dennis Allen, but he's not a trainer, so he doesn't have a pass to be in the corner. You have to have like a lanyard with a pass on it. So the referee is kicking Virgil Hill out of the ring. He's a WBA light heavyweight champion, by the way, of the world, and they're kicking him out of the ring because he doesn't have a press credential to be in there. So my head, I didn't know how to explain that other than, and it was in a critical moment in the boxing match too. Like this was like the round he needed. Next one he needed to at least get back in, and so that was so interesting and somewhat just fly by the seat of your pants at that point. But we kept it going and got through it, and that's it was just one of those moments where it's live television, and this is happening right now. And Mike, the color commentator, just is up in the ring right now talking to a boxer and getting kicked out, and he is the most known probably face in the world, one of the top probably 3 or 4 for boxing. And it was like, wow, it was crazy. That was fun. That was fun, though. It ended up being a nice night, though. He had a lot of fun.
He was wearing his Virgil Hill pass, and that gets into the corner, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
That was of course, Virgil, and his great career and all the things he did. What a great ambassador for North Dakota and what he did. Still think he should have got probably the gold at the Olympics, but he got silver. But debatable. Depends how you score it. But anyway, he had a great run there, and of course, then turned professional and did all the good things. He fought Thomas Hearns down in Las Vegas, and I got to go there and help watch him train in Reno. And that was kind of a big moment, too, to be with him for a few days. This is 20 years ago. So moments like that are really kind of fun, really stand out.
You didn't get to
But there's many more. But whether it's our Redeemers playing Glenburn, and it's a great finish, and Virgil Hill, Thomas Hearns, obviously different level, but, the bottom line is the competition and just the effort put forth by the competitors. And just, it's, you have the audience that makes it great and crazy and all that, but when you get down to it, it's the competition, and you can kind of find it's the same thing, it's just on a grander scale. So games that are fun and are close, are exciting, are fun, no matter what level they're at,
So when you were in Vegas that time, you didn't get to stay on Marie Osmond's dime at the Flamingo?
No, I didn't. We were in Reno. We weren't in Las Vegas because Virgil trained in Reno. And then we didn't go to the fight. We just were there the week before for his training. And we didn't get to go to Las Vegas, but so didn't get to go into the Flamingo, but maybe I was there not too long ago, a few years ago, but it's been a while. But
so you have your name on the Bishop Ryan Wrestling Room wall, and I'm kind of wondering, when you're doing play-by-play for boxing, you've admitted like, hey, I'm not the biggest boxing expert. Did you ever find yourself in the back of your mind thinking like, why doesn't he just take him down here? Did the wires ever get crossed?
Well, no, that would be, I think, ultimate fighting. But I definitely, boxing's a different thing than wrestling, but it's similar. You have one-on-one competition, but I don't know what to say now. And I actually did think about maybe you could try to do something else, but I don't want how else you can try to get an advantage, but try to keep it legal and everything. So anyway,
yeah. Bare knuckles here. So we're about a month or so clear of when you signed off at KX, okay? And I was kind of wondering, when you sit down and you're thinking about how that last Sportscast is going to go, for anybody that didn't see it or was wondering about it, Mike used like his time to just kind of reminisce and like think of all the people that made the job memorable for him over the years. How many drafts did you have when you were writing kind of that letter and that script for that sign-off?
I wrote one. I can't say I didn't rewrite a sentence, but I mean, I did it. I think that day or the day before, I was like, there was a lot of things going through my mind of just the whole situation, and how to handle it. How do you handle this professionally? And I thought, well, I always have tried to be as professional as I can, and I know you have too. And I'm not gonna, this is not the time to be. I want to thank everyone for what they've done, and so I sat down that day and I wrote it, and I really reached deep inside, like, what's the most deepest? And you can always say, I thank this person, things. How can I measure my success? What has helped me, and who has helped me achieve that? Those are the people I want to recognize, and the people around me that have become the part of my life, and the friendships, and have helped this all move along in this direction that it was moving. But I really wrote it, and it didn't. And I would say not in one take or one thing, but it was. I wrote it through, and I said, I'm going with that. This is how I feel. These are the people I want to recognize, and these are, this is what I want to say to all the viewers in the area. And I was somewhat reluctant of if I should even do it, but I thought I'm going to, because it was just something I wanted to do, just to thank them, because they had been there for me for 30 years, and of course I tried to do things, to help out the communities too, but I just wanted to recognize them. And I went to the most important things and tossed out all the other things here and there, and in my thoughts, and just said, no, I'm sticking with the real people and the real things that happened, and how this all just came together and worked out, for as long as it did. And so it didn't take me. I bet you I wrote that in probably under 10 minutes or 15 minutes, but and it wasn't that. It's just how I feel, and that's all I want it to be. I know people will say, "Oh, that was all over whatever on one space." And I said, "Well, if it was, it was." That's just. I want to thank the people and all the communities.
I asked.
That's just how it is.
Yeah. I asked Jim Olson this also. So, like, when you guys are doing this for years on end, and you're going to your different shoots, whether it's games or anything else, and people tell you, like, hey, I feel like I know you. You guys are doing good. I appreciate your effort and all that stuff. That happens throughout your career. But so, talk to me a little bit about what you've heard when it comes to people appreciating what you've done since you signed off in, like, the last month or so, and what that kind of means now that it's done.
It means a lot. But at the same, and I've gotten letters from former coaches, from former people that I've worked with, and it really did mean a lot, because of, not because I wanted that or needed that. I guess everyone needs that in a way, but just to realize that I at least did something that someone appreciated, something, and they all just have said great things. I can't even. It tugs at your heart, because some of them I didn't even think were thinking that way. I didn't know they felt that way, and they came out and said some very nice things, and it's been very uplifting. It felt, at a time when you kind of needed it. It worked out well in a certain way. And so I wish I wouldn't have other circumstances at that time also going on, but I could have, stayed and called and related back more to those people. But it's just because of everything, all the things that have happened during the last 2 months, whatever. It's been difficult. So I just have to accept them and really and thank everybody for all the cards and support, and not only for me but for my family and what we went through. When they always say, you always hear people say, well, we've got a lot of support and we want to thank everyone. We've got so much support. I can't even tell you how much that is understated so many times, what our family has received here in Minot and from the people around this part of the state, western part, or all over the country. We sat at the table, I mean, night after night, with our loss, a tragedy of losing a child, and I tell you, it was, we just sit and, after we open the car, just look at each other and just say, this is unbelievable, the support, and just, you kind of, you get in a daze after a while, and we were for many days and a daze, but it was, the support from the community was, I always knew that it was there, and I just kind of, thought it was there. I've never had it step forward. I mean, just the amount that came forward was unbelievable, and people that lent a hand and did things for us. Wow. I mean, it was fantastic. What a great reflection on the community. Just unbelievable.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, I mean, you never want to see, the other part of that happening, along with, the KX sign-off and stuff, and I'm really sorry the way that it happened for you guys. When it comes to just the career move that you're ending up making here, when I was thinking about, transitioning off of it, was the brighter side that I thought of right when I heard you were going to be signing off of KX was he's got more time to be the full-blown bright purple and gold Bishop Ryan fan that I know he is, and Bryson Elm's final year coming up, you'll be able to be there a lot of times. So just how much are you looking forward to? I know you went to games as a fan for parts of it, and you didn't go right back to the station to work in order to watch your kids a little bit more. But just to have that extra time here coming up, how much are you looking forward to being that Lions fan that you are?
Oh, I can't tell you. I've been waiting 30 years for this one. 30. Let's see, when my oldest son graduated in 2000, so I've been waiting, whatever it is, 20 years, or a little over 20 years. Because you know how it is, and you have to be back at the station at night, so you don't get to see for many of the games, whatever you're at. But obviously, when your kids are playing, you want to be there. And I know coaches deal with this, referees they're away from their kids too, and that's what's helped me actually as it's gone along here. When the nights when I've had to come back and your child's still playing in a sport, and I'm like, oh, I would do anything to be there. But then you see the coaches are going through the same thing, and it's not just us, and it's the media or whatever. It's a lot of other people too that have to deal with that. But and to get back on subject though, I'm so excited. I hope they play. I mean, it looks like the high school activity is giving them the go ahead. I am so looking forward to this because, I think it's going to be a fun year, and it was last year, kind of a Cinderella type story thing, and we'll see if they can keep it going there again this year. But just a point to make for you and for me, and I was thinking about saying this in the sign-off that I did that night. I thought about that for years, but I didn't put it in there. But I would have liked to told everybody, and it didn't fit in that what I was saying. So, but for you and me, that when we cover teams like Ryan or Mina High or our Redeemers or Ned Rose, same kind of thing, Dole Action Burlington, teams in our area, and sometimes people will say, hey, how come we don't cover Stanley or Powers Lake or Williston? It's because the proximity and people have to understand we need people to go out, actually a photographer to go there, so you need one person at least to drive there and shoot the video and come back, and so we're doing the best we can. And when people say, oh, you're covering that team more than this team, and I've got that a lot, and of course I did go to Bishop Ryan, and my kids go there, but that's not the reason I'm covering them. It's because they're in town, and when you get off the air at 6:30 and you have to be somewhere at the game at 7, there's not too far you can go. So it's all proximity to what you can do. And so for future people, I just keep that in mind, or if your listeners here today, just, you can ask if they can come out, base up a certain day or something. But the reason they're not getting as much coverage as the teams in this area is because you're further away, and it's just, physically you can't get there. Some people just don't understand that with technology, especially today in social media, and, we have cell phones, blah, blah, blah. Well, okay, but you would need someone to record that and cut the highlights, give us a roster, write a shot sheet, edit it, put it together. So there's, it's not as easy as a lot of people think, and then you lose your visual time of watching your son or daughter play or friend or whatever it could be, and And so, you're become a worker, so you don't really enjoy it as much. So, I just wanted to let people know that we do the best we can, and in all the media and Minnet. That's what I'm saying earlier about what's so unique about our part of the state is we go out and cover so many different teams. It's because, and that's a reflection of what we're trying to do is just give a lot of people as much coverage as we can, but we are limited. And then, of course, you throw in different sports. You have volleyball going on in fall, and swimming, and whatever. So, and soccer. So you try to, well, okay, how can I be here, here, and here, and here? I'm one person, and you and I deal with this all the time. And you try to be at 3 events that all begin at 7 o'clock in 3 different towns. Logistics is it's just you can't do it. So you try to pick and choose so you give everybody some coverage, but the ones in your town you're going to get the most coverage because they're closest to you, and that's, I think, important for everyone to know. But we're not trying to cover them. We're just covering what we can as best as we can.
Yeah, I mean, I think.
I thought I'd put a plug in for you there a little bit, Ben.
Yeah, I mean, it even reflects now. I mean, you're the guest, so I'll say it just shows that. You have the want to. It's just you got to do what you can. And
right.
Now that you do have the time to be a fan and see your last kid go through it, I'm kind of wondering, as you look into the winter time, would you consider joining the student section for Hawaiian Tiki night? I think they'd get a kick out of it.
Well, are they having a luau?
I think they do.
Well, that's possible. I think I do have a Hawaiian shirt or something similar in my closet somewhere, but no, it'll be fun. That's one thing I kind of was hoping I was kind of looking forward to, just following my son his senior year, and then and getting to more events than I usually can go to. So if I can, I'll do as many as I can, and we'll have to see how that goes. But for all those parents out there that they have a night shift or may have that miss their games, you kind of feel bad. Like you go to the games, you see the same parents there a lot, and you're like, how do these people do this? And away games too, like how do they get to every game? I mean, I can't even get to one in my own town, and that's great for that support. But all those other parents that don't get to see it, I feel for them because I know exactly what they're going through, and you can't be there. You got work to do or whatever other obligations, and so I know I'm going to try to enjoy that this year with my son his senior year, and we'll see where it takes us. And it is wherever it ends up. It's for and all the teams. I hope they have good years. Whoever comes out on top, that's how it was meant to be. But I just hope they get to play. High school activities took a nice step, I think. And we might be one of the few states that actually start on time. I hope that's true. I don't know why we wouldn't. Or I think we're so low. Our population's so low, and the COVID-19, as far as what it's affecting, of any state, this is probably the one that could do it. I guess is the way to say it. And I'm sure hoping that we try to be leaders for this country and show that you can do it. You don't want to be a little recluse and not look at safety, but at the same time, you got to just weigh everything and say, okay, I think maybe we have enough on our side that we can do it, but everyone's got their opinion. That's a whole other animal there. That everyone's got an opinion. I just hope they get to play. They lost their spring season. At least they're playing some baseball right now, but high school, I hope they get something in because it would be nice to see those seniors. They're kind of like right now, just kind of walking around and with the old, they're looking. Their eyes is like they don't know what to do. And then this whole generation of these kids, I'd say seniors from last year all the way down, into the middle school. Boy, they're just like a lost generation. They don't know what. This strange thing has happened, and they're kind of being pushed to the side. Their life, and it's kind of sad, as many people are. But they're still trying to, enjoy their high school years, and I hope they get to enjoy them.
I saved, after all this time, maybe a couple more tough questions for last here. In your time as a sportscaster, a fan, even growing up way back in the day, who was the best Lions athlete you've ever seen?
I've ever seen or interviewed or
seen play.
I mean, it could have been before my time.
Okay.
The best athlete I've ever seen at Bishop Ryan, well, it's a tough one. Well, it really isn't. Mark Slater.
Oh, yeah, isn't he the golden football guy?
Yes, he is. The 50th anniversary, he got a football because he was with Philadelphia when they went to the Super Bowl. He was a long snapper. But he was, I think, a 3-time state wrestling champion. I can't remember if it's 3 or 4. And then he, of course, was a fantastic football player. And he was smaller. Not that we remember this. He was smaller than most. He wrestled heavyweight. He was smaller than most of the guys he matched up against. He definitely was shorter. So he used a lot of muscle and his strength against guys that were, a lot of them were way over his weight, and he would go out and he'd pin every one of them. I mean, pin a lot of them. I'd say not all of them, but he was something else. And anyway, I would say he is definitely the number one. And in football, I have one memory of him back in whatever 72. I was a 7th, 6th grade or whatever it was. It doesn't matter. I was at the game, and Bishop Ryan was playing Bismarck St. Mary's. That's when, of course, Ryan was still Class A. And there was 5 seconds left on the clock, and Bishop Ryan was down by 5 or whatever, back on their own 5-yard line. And everyone's kind of walking out of the stadium, we lose again type of thing. And they threw a screen pass to Mark Slater on the sidelines, and he went 95 yards for the winning touchdown as the clock ran out. I said, and, it's just kind of like seeing a legend actually perform as they're a legend still. And, you heard about him, and then you just saw what he could do, and you're like, wow, this guy is phenomenal. But that's, he ended, of course, going to the NFL, and then he was, like I said, like a long snapper for the Eagles. But he played, I think, in the 1980 Super Bowl. I can't remember what year it was, or 80-something. Yeah. And so anyway, yeah, he would be my number one, and he really stands out as kind of in his own world. He would be the athlete that I could point to.
So for that play, did you hear the roar of the crowd from your car, and then read about what happened in the Daily News, or did you actually see the play? Did you?
I saw it.
Okay, good.
Oh, I'm not leaving a football game. And if there's a possibility, I'm staying. And or baseball, same thing. But I mean, or basketball, any sport. But it was, I was at the far end, and they threw it, and I was like, it seemed like he's still running because he's on the far side. I couldn't really tell. And I remember it's just like, well, is he still running? Because he's smaller than a lot of guys, so the linemen are kind of blocked. And sure enough, just comes out of the pack, and he goes all the way down the sidelines. And my sister was a cheerleader, so that's probably why I stayed too, whatever. But, just cheering him on, and then he went for the touchdown, and they won. And and I think the St. Mary's coach probably was still coaching at that time. I can't think of his name right now. He wears the shorts all the time, but he's been there for about 30, 35 years, too, I think, something like that.
So in this era, was it at Hogan Field, or where was it?
It was at Hogan Field. It was at Hogan Field. And that's, of course, they had lights back then, but, yeah, Herb Parker wasn't even, I guess they had a field there. It would have been, it wasn't turf or anything like that, but, it would have, back then, Ryan played all of its games at Hogan. I think around the 80s, somewhere in there, they started using Herb Parker a little bit. So, so back there, it was still all Hogan. Yeah.
So if you zone in just to your household, and I know it's a large household, so it still might be difficult, who's the most athletic Elm Kid, or is it you for your accomplishments in the wrestling ring?
How do I answer that one? I'm going to get something, I'm going to get some bad Christmas presents. I tell you, I've seen some amazing things.
I love all my children.
Yeah, which it could be a sitcom or a soap opera. All my children. I think I'm trying to think. They all have their special things. I don't know. Of course, our seniors still have to finish out, so who knows what could happen. So we can't say for sure. But I had a couple of kids at Austin who played, and Jericho who played quarterbacks and showed their leadership. They weren't big, so they got beat up a lot. But Austin finished. They got to the playoffs and lost to Lisbon on the road. But when he left, Austin, he played the year with a torn. I think he had a torn groin, He had like 3 or 4 things that were torn on the inside of his leg or on his leg, and he was wrapped. And he went and he still played the whole season. I mean, it was amazing what he did. So their fortitude was very very remarkable in their leadership. And then the only other thing I won't say which ones, but Jarek also was a quarterback. And here's a remarkable thing about him that not too many people know about. They're playing Velva. This is probably 10 years ago, whatever it was. And he came in the game. He was quarterback. The starting quarterback was still playing baseball for the Vistas. He was like at a tournament or something like their regional, so he wasn't there. So my son was like the backup, but he got to start that game. And anyway, he about halfway through the game, he gets hit, and I'm shooting video on the sidelines, and I'm standing right there. Comes to the sidelines, and his throwing shoulder is just hanging down. It's out of place. He's got a dislocated shoulder, and the doctor there or the training people, they didn't really want to. I don't think they wanted to do much because I think if they do anything, you can't go back in the game. So he was kind of just holding his shoulder down, and then all of a sudden he just took his other hand, his left hand, and he pulled his right shoulder back into place, went back in the game, and threw a touchdown pass with the dislocated shoulder. I thought, I will never see that again in my life. So that was amazing. That's just how much they were dedicated to their team and how much effort they wanted to put forward. So I see it all. And Shayla was a good athlete, her only daughter, and she did some great things. And all of them have their great little moments, I guess, so to speak. Callum was a great golfer. And then Bryson's coming up, and he's good in a lot of different sports. So, and then Kirk, he golfed, and Brian golfed, and who am I missing? Oh, Kyler, and Kyler played football, and also Kyler's a good baseball player. So, I mean, they all have their own thing. I never push them. As a parent, these parents, do this camp, do that camp, become the next Michael Jordan. I'm like, if you want to do that, we can do that, but only do that if you really want to do that, because only you can make help your accomplishments. If you don't, your heart's not in it, you're not going to go as far as you want to, unless you are completely devoted and dedicated to it. So like they all did their own thing. I've never ever pushed. I played with them and coached them in little league baseball and stuff. But if they don't want to play, I wouldn't bat an eye. But if they do want to play, I'll say, well, let's be the best you can be, and try to be the best if you want to, So that's just everything I'm in sports. Your kids are all. I never have said a word to them about. I've asked them if they're going out. I've never ever said they have to, put that mandate of any sort of any kind. Mm-hmm. But I said, if you don't, you should do something, though. Stay active doing something. That's kind of always what I said. So, so anyway, I got philosophical there probably a little bit, didn't I?
No, well, I think we'll check the tape after this and make sure you mentioned every single kid. And I think I did. So great. So, Mike, I want to get you out on this one. Was a couple of times you've mentioned how you've been able to get home for a quick dinner, a good old baked potato, all that stuff. And another non-sports thing that you mentioned in your sign-off was, boy, I keep missing dinners, man, and all that good stuff. And now you'll have time for it, thankfully. But on the other side of the coin, I mean, you got to give credit to Dina after all these years cooking these big meals. I'm curious, including your baked potatoes, probably. Have you taken up cooking? Have you taken up cooking or helping with dinner now that you have a chance to help her out for a change?
Well, a little bit, not much. I'm to be totally honest, not as much as I should.
Well, you don't want to mess it up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, when it's perfect, why mess it up? No, she has done great, and on top of that, not only she had to cook, but she had to cook on my schedule. So, and, if we want to, I mean, as far as if we want to gather for supper at the same time, so you can't start something too soon. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of times she's had to work with, me getting home at whatever time, maybe after 6:30, it'd be like, close to 7. So supper gets delayed sometimes. So, I can't be easy to, delay, if you're cooking spaghetti or something or whatever it is, you have to have it kind of somewhat on schedule. So she's had to, deal with that, of course, all these years. And a lot of times I say, well, just whatever, if it's left over, I'll eat it. It's on a plate. That's fine.
Unbelievable. I mean, like, what? I know it's been a while, but what a freaking keeper for her to do that, man. And if I was in her shoes and you got home later, I'd be like, hey, Mike, there's the microwave right over there.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Right. Well, yeah. But yeah, you're right. She did kind of adjust, and I think because she likes to serve the meal hot, and then something about the hot meal. And I'm like, okay, well then I'll get there as soon as I can. But if you want to everyone get together, that's what we'll do. But you have to wait till then. But yeah, she has been there the whole way. She has been the reason that this lasted this long, and the whole broadcasting and with the the TV station. It's without Dina, my wife, there's no way. I mean, she's been everything. Yeah, I mean, kind of like many things, the person that does the most kind of gets recognized sometimes the least, and which is sad. But no, I definitely recognize all that she's done, and wow, yeah, raising a family too. And that's another thing, education-wise, with our children. Many times, I couldn't even eat, and then you pop back out the door to a game. There's homework to do, and these kids, and many times, she was the teacher, and had to go through algebra or whatever science or whatever geography, whatever class it was, and be that parent to do that. And most times I wasn't, because I wasn't here until the weekends or during the day. But then they're in school, so it's kind of an opposite schedule. So she was a cook and cooked and did a lot from the home. She did a lot to teach the kids too, and raise them and all that. She's been around the clock. No doubt, she is the reason that this has all worked. So.
Well, that's what we like to do. I mean, after all this Mike Elm talk, we like to save the best for last anyway, right?
That's right. Yeah, save the best for last. Yeah, absolutely. That's the reason. Mm-hmm. She's the reason. I'll just say that. That kind of covers everything. She's the reason. Yeah.
There you go. Well,
yeah. So,
Mike, this has been awesome, man. I appreciate you. Being not like a great colleague or competitor, just a great friend to hang out at all these things we've done together. And I'm just looking forward to seeing you a lot more still at Ryan or anywhere that you end up being, man. And I appreciate just the catching up time and giving everybody a chance to hear the deep dive about your career around Minot and even before that, man. So thanks a lot for your time.
Oh, thanks, Pat. And I want to just recognize you too. When we went through our difficult time, and you coming down to the funeral home, and your presence showed me, what kind of person that you are, and your station to be there and send support of a card, and of course my station sending some flowers and things, and just to show what kind of classy guy you are, and to come down there during a difficult time for us, and still to try to be, to give us your support. I really appreciate that from our family.
Absolutely, man. Wouldn't miss it. 100%. Hey, let's stay in touch past the podcast, man. And I wish you the best in the next chapter, and just hanging out with the family, man. Congrats on a great career.
Doing that right now. Yeah, hanging out and catching up on things. It's been 30 years of putting things off, and now I'm catching up, and now we'll see where it goes from here. I'm not sure where I'm going, but we'll just with the faith, we'll keep moving forward.
All right, thanks a lot. That's Mike Elm, KX legend.